Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch.
I don't believe Natalie realizes how painful it was. I mean, she hasn't even attempted to really apologize. And I just don't feel like any wife should treat their husband like that.
Is something wrong? You look sad.
Huh?
You look sad. Is something wrong?
I don't know. I was just a little disappointed with you before the whole surgery thing.
Okay, so this is a great start. He is exhibiting his emotions on his face instead of verbally, which is common for avoidant attached people. I don't know if he is one, but I will say that. She asks him in a nice way, is something wrong? And she's open to hearing an answer, it looked like. And then, as a miracle has occurred, he actually said, I was a little disappointed. Now, that's a huge step forward for him to even express anything along those lines. I was expecting him to say like, well, you know, it is what it is. But he's saying exactly what is on his mind. Let's see if they can actually have an open conversation, a vulnerable conversation, where they take care of each other, they listen to each other. Let's see.
Why?
Because you went to the hospital without me. I took the time off, didn't know what was going on with you. You just kind of left me high and dry.
I know.
Why?
Because you fight a lot, I remember
We fight a lot, so you leave me. You don't tell me about
I went
surgery.
alone.
Like, why didn't you come get me and go to the hospital?
Okay, so he is kind of expressing how he's feeling. He's not explicitly saying, you hurt my feelings or something along those lines, but I think it's clear from what he's saying. And she is saying, well, the reason why is because we were fighting all the time. And that kind of makes some sense. I don't think it makes sense to abandon someone, but it gives some context to it. So what would I be hoping for? That she could say, honey, I'm sorry that I left you. And that was wrong. Period. End of topic. Then he would say, I'm sorry that I've been contributing to the fighting, and I guess I understand why you did it, what you did, but please don't ever do that again because it really hurt my feelings. End of conversation. What often people do is they cross-talk each other. He will say, how come you left me? And she says, because we fight. And then he said, so just because we fight, that means you can just leave me behind? And then she will defend, and then he'll defend, and she'll, and it'll just go back and forth instead of one topic at a time. It's very important. If it's one thing you learn from me ever in your relationships, is one topic at a time. Resolve that if you're married to someone, you have many years of conversations ahead of you. You do not have to rush things. You don't have to shove 5 topics into one in 1 minute. You can luxuriate because you have many years to talk about things. So you can luxuriate in one topic. And in the back of your mind, you can be like, well, there's other things I want to talk about. Okay, but let's talk about this one thing. And sometimes that means it's one directional in that one person is apologizing, the other person is accepting that apology. Then you can move on to the next thing. Maybe it reverses at that point.
Because I was afraid you might fight, and I didn't want to get nervous before. I just wanted to, to concentrate on my operation and...
That doesn't make any sense, Natalie.
I'm explaining it to Mike, but unfortunately, he is not understanding me.
So she's saying, the reason why I left you is because I wanted to be calm at the day of the surgery. I mean, it makes some sense. But I think Mike detects, and I wouldn't be surprised if for Natalie it was more than that. That it was a passive aggression. It was a way of expressing her anger towards him in a hidden way. Or she just didn't want to see his face because they've been fighting all the time. So if I were Mike, or if I was there for Mike, I'd say like, well, she's telling you at least one reason. Maybe there's more reasons, but she's telling you one. Can you acknowledge that one reason? Okay, is there anything else, Natalie, as to why you would have done that?
So I just needed to be by myself. And I don't think anything wrong with that.
Could have called me on the way to the hospital, said something. I mean, I didn't know anything. When you got to the hospital, you didn't call me.
I remember assistant of doctor said to me, we need from you just to come.
So she's defending herself, and this is one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that John Gottman will talk about, the apocalypse of a divorce, by the way. And 4 horsemen meaning that they're the harbingers of divorce. Defensiveness is one. Defensiveness is a very common element in couples. It's not usually a huge indication of divorce. It's when you have all the other ones in addition. You have contempt and stonewalling and criticism. Criticism is another one that's pretty frequent depending on the intensity. But anyway, so she's defending it, and he's saying, you couldn't have just called me? You couldn't have just told me that you were going there? I didn't know where you were. I had to search for you. And she could say something like, yeah, I see that hurt you, and it makes sense that hurt you. I'm sorry. Let me provide some context as to why that would have happened. But she's not doing that. She's just jumping to the defensiveness.
Natalie tends to have selfish ways, definitely. It's bull, you know. I understand she's scared and everything, but it hit me kind of deep, you know. I'm trying to be worried for her and help her, and there was no reason for her not to come get me, and I wait in the waiting room for her, just like any other normal husband would do with their wife.
So it's good. I'm going to commend him for doing something that he doesn't do very often, which is actually saying that he was hurt. It hurt his feelings. That's good for him. He doesn't usually say anything like that. I also wonder if he might be amping up his hurt a little bit. He seems to be really holding on to this as a way of justifying his anger towards her. I'll see couples do this as they start to go down the slippery slope of contempt and divorce and breaking up. They will, when there's a clear example of being wronged, they'll really hold on to it because they feel like it gives them justification for the way that they feel, instead of just sitting with their feelings and be like, you know what, I think I might be falling out of love with this person. They'll really latch on to a particular behavior, and I don't know if Mike's doing that. It looks like they are in the process of breaking up to me. It looks like they've kind of been in that process for a while, and this last season was one last-ditch effort to see if being married would actually solve their problems, and lo and behold, it did not. So I think that's what we're seeing, and I think Mike might be doing some of that holding on to a grudge as a way of justifying his, the part of him that wants to break up. But I don't know. Maybe they'll stay together forever.
This, that every time I speak, he walks away. What is the logic?
I just want you to realize how frustrated I am with you. You know what I mean? Does that not make sense?
I don't regret not communicating with Mike during my surgery process because this is my health and I decide how I act towards it.
Yeah, unless I'm missing something, that's not what he's saying. What he was saying is he wanted to be there for you and you didn't let him. He also didn't know where you were. He was in full support of your surgery. So to equate what his complaint is with him preventing her from going to surgery. Now, maybe there was some sort of message, and there seemed to be arguments in the past about that, right? About Mike being at least not entirely for the surgery, right? All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.